Hello everyone and welcome to the live stream. My name is Remy Monsen. I guess most of you have seen me here before. It's Ralph who normally does these. So today I'm going to go on a little journey with you guys. I'm gonna look at the fills in Camping Cartographer 3 Plus and just explore a little bit what we can do with these fills. Out of the box, especially if you have a lot of the add-ons and annuals and things like that, you do have quite a lot of fills already. But one of the questions is often, well, you need to make some tweaks, some changes. You want something to be lighter, darker, redder, bluer, and wanted to use it for some other purpose. You don't have the exact fill you need. So let's dive a little bit in and look at several different ways you can actually use fills in this program and how we can take the fills we already own, do things with them, how we can import new fills into the program and expand our opportunities basically. So let's just dive into it, and I was thinking I should just start with a little bit of a floor plan. It's a nice place to start. So I'm gonna go for a dungeon map, and I am going for the symbol set 2 dungeon style. It's one of the styles I'm very fond of the visuals of. So I'm gonna make this too large. Just gonna demonstrate the fills after all. So background, I think we can do a little bit of grass with dirt. It's probably fine. Let's put it somewhere. Let's just call it to floor plan. Okay, Sue mentions my volume is a little bit low. Can just probably adjust it up a little bit. Hopefully that's a little bit better. Just give me a word if there is any issues with my volume. So let's just go on here, and now I have a map, and I'm just gonna draw a very, very, very simple house now. My goal here tonight is not to make the most beautiful finished map, but just to show you how you can utilize the fills and do things with them. So let me just, I have map on, fine. And I'm just going to start by drawing some walls. So my outer wall of my house could be some brick walls. And going for a little bit. This. There we go. Some nice outer walls. Turn on my effects. And for this particular demo, I'm going to just turn off these shadows. They get a little bit in the way for what I'm demonstrating. So I'm just going to go into Sheets and Effects, find my walls, and turn off my wall shadows. There we go, no wall shadows. See what more I can have. Some internal walls. Well, we can probably just continue with brick, but a little bit thinner walls. I'm just going to divide this house a little bit up. There we go. Nice little home with some floors. And let's put on some doors while we're at it. Iron doors, probably not the right. Some nice wooden door. Let's use a closed one for main door at the side. Normal size, and some open doors on the inside. Notice that when you're placing doors along walls, just let me zoom in a little bit like this. It can be difficult getting the door on the side of the wall you want to. Let's say here, you can see it wants to put it on the outside, but what if I want it on the inside? That's usually because you have snapping on. Snapping is nice for a lot of things you're doing, but it's not helping when you're placing doors, and that's because doors are smart. They look at where your cursor is, but when you have snapping on, the cursor is always basically as the door sees it at that point. Turn off snapping, and you can see the door snaps to the wall, but now I can actually change which side I place it on. So snap is not always helpful. That and that, and door there, like this. And we have a nice house. Let's just throw in a few windows as well. People like windows, right? At least I like windows. They give me some necessary light. So this was just to get a little bit started. It looks very weird if I don't have any setup here at all. But now it comes to the floor fills, and I'm gonna draw these manually for now. There are fills here in the drawing tools of different types, but I'm gonna explore the fills a little bit manually, so I'm just gonna ignore the tools for now. If I hit the fill style indicator, I can see all the fills that are defined in the current map. One thing that fools a lot of people initially is that, hey, I thought I had more fills than this. Why are not all my fills available? And the basic idea here is that not all fills are made for all map types. I have a lot more fills than this, but only the fills defined in the current map are actually shown here. You can add more here, and I'll show that in a few minutes. But first I'm going to use what's in here. So I'm thinking that I want to do some floorboards, and I like these pine floorboards. So let me just select that one. Yeah, floor sheet is already the correct sheet. Just do the layer as well, the background layer, floor, and I'm gonna draw some polygons. I'm gonna turn back on snap because I drew the walls with snap, and we can draw some nice floors in here. Now, fine. If my idea of this house was that I wanted the same floors in every room, well, then I can be happy. And of course, I do have additional options here. So I could have now drawn some with oak, some with cherry to get a little bit of variation. So that's obviously one way to do it. Just go ahead and pick a different hill like this and just draw it. So that's of course, but that should be obvious. That's not really what I'm here to explain to you tonight. So let us just start with the fill we actually have. What can I do with this fill to change it around a little bit? Well, the first thing I can experiment with is fill scaling. Right now, the planks looks okay scale-wise for my building. So I can be happy with this scaling, but maybe I wasn't happy at all. Maybe the planks were too small, too large. So let me just go in to the bitmap files. I need to manually find the one I'm looking for here. Or I can show you a shortcut to doing that, because finding the right one can be hard. Instead, we can use the extract properties button over here on an existing one in the map. So it can be hard to pick it now since the walls are on the outline. So let me temporarily just hide the walls. We don't need them right now. So if I use this one and I click on the edge, now the edge is a little bit fussy because I have effects on. Actually, I don't like that edge fading either. Floors. Not sure why the floors have edge fades, but let me now just use it, and see when I select it, we can see that it immediately changed to the correct fill. And when I now go into the dialog, it's on the right fill from the get-go, so I don't have to go looking for the fill. That often helps me a lot, especially if you have a lot of fills, they can be hard to find. So now look at this one, scaled. First of all, if this box is not checked like this, we have an issue. You can see the fill now is much larger, but watch what happens when I zoom out a bit. Can you see that the size of the boards is the same on the screen, which means they get larger compared to the elements on the map? You can see here now, if you see that little door over here, we go to one of the doors, a little bit up there. Check the window instead. You can see that the plank is almost twice the width of the window. But if I zoom in, for more reasonable, we can see we get a lot of planks in the size of the window. And this is why this scaled option is very, very important. If we forget, or if the fill is not set to be scaled, then it won't have a consistent size compared to other items in the map. It will instead have a consistent size compared to our screen. And when we export the map afterwards, everything is going to look extremely tiny. So make sure it's scaled. And now we can change the size. Let me just enable scale so we can see. Now you can see it follow the size of the window. The planks get smaller as I zoom out. But let me now assume that, well, these planks are too small for me. I like bigger planks. Well, you can go in here and you can just change the scaling factor. So if I put this on 50 instead, now the planks are twice as large. Yeah, now they're kind of huge for this little cottage, but still, we can change the scale as we want. And of course, can go the other way instead. Let's take them all the way back to 5. And we now have our nice tiny planks. Just remember that when you scale things up, things will start to get pixelated if you scale them too far up, because there is a limit to the resolution of the art files. And if you scale them too much, let me try doing something silly like 500. You can see I'm seeing the pixels now. So there are limits here. Let's just stay reasonable. You don't have to scale the same in both directions, but yeah, like I typed wrongly there, of course. If you don't, but if you do, it looks weird. Notice you can also use this preview window. This value here sets the size of the preview window. So if I set the preview window should be 50 map units, it will look like that. this is a great way to just preview a little bit what you're doing. What you need to understand to set the preview window a decent size, otherwise it doesn't really mean anything. So let me just go. There we have the blanks. But now, okay, maybe I didn't want to have the same plank size in all rooms. Now I have 4 rooms there. Let's just go back to walls. It's temporarily. I want to have different plank sizes in different rooms, exactly as Michael asks in chat. Can I have the same fill with different scales? And yes. So how can I do that? Well, again, I go into the dialog and I find my fill. I select the right fill, make sure that's selected, and just hit the new button with the fill selected. And I'm gonna make a smaller version of this. So I make small. What happens when you hit the new button is that you make a copy of the existing file. And remember, this is just a reference to external image files. So both fills, now I have 2 of these, fine, too small and fine, will reference the same art files on disk. So they don't need any new files. This will work even if you give the map to someone else, as long as they have the same style you have, but we haven't done anything to the art file of disk. We have just duplicated the fill. And now I can say that in one fill, it should be 10. And in the other fill, it should still be 25. Now, of course, all my floors are drawn using the same. So I need to change it. Just gonna hide these walls again. And use change properties on this one. And this is why I drew the floor in multiple sections in the first place. Let's just change the fill style to the small ones. Done. Now I have small. And we can do it again. New. Make one big ones. Just make sure that the big one is selected. And let me make this 50. And I can now say that I want to have this one as the big one. Just like that. Just throw the walls back in there. And you can see that I have taken one style and basically made different sizes from it. And you can make as many as you really want to. So as I said, all reference the same art files on disk, so this doesn't change anything. The map will still work everywhere you have this style. Everything is just as. So that's a nice trick to do. But there are other things we might want to do with these fill styles. For example, notice how the planks all go in one direction. What if I want to change the direction the plank goes in? Let me just draw another little square out here on the floor. Okay. Can I change the direction of these ones just by rotating it? Well, not really. Yeah. This is not really what I want. I mean, if any carpenter decided to build it like that, I wouldn't know if I should laugh or cry. That doesn't really work for me. Well, okay, it's kind of original, I guess. Could be cool, maybe, but a lot of unnecessary work. So what if I want the planks to be aligned with the sorry, my head hung up, but I want the planks to be aligned with the edge of the polygon. Okay, you can also do that. That's not a property of the fill directly, but if I first right click on the polygon and do a shaded polygon angle by edge, and I just need to turn off snap so I can click correctly here, and I just click on this edge and voila, There is one more thing to this. Once you do that, the polygon also become affected by lighting in the map. You can see that the colors is now slightly lighter than the rest of it, but that can easily be fixed. Just click the numeric edit, click the entity, and turn on the shade only copy option. This turns off the lighting and it now follows it exactly. I can now also rotate it, grab it, and rotate it a little bit. You can see that now the planks actually follow along with the rotation of the object. Do notice that doing this turns it into a shaded polygon, and shaded polygons are harder to edit. You cannot edit them using normal tools. So this is normally something I would do in the end. When I'm done, I'm just knowing that I am going to do this to my planks and just let it be normal for the mapping and just fix this in the end. Because as I said, changing this is not straightforward. But this is just how you can change that one. And go back here. If I had done angle by edge and clicked the other edge instead, you can see the planks are lined that way. Again, they get some color from the lighting in the map, so I need to do that. And now we can see the plank the other way. Of course, it depends on the fill in the first place, how the fill is defined. Now, the planks in this fill are horizontal planks, but if I'd used a vertical fill with vertical planks, I obviously would have to just click on the other edge to get the alignment the same. But just undo if it doesn't work on the first try and just use another edge. It's not not more difficult than that. So that's also something you can do with your fills. Technically, they can be aligned anyway, but the normal is aligning them to an edge. I can of course do that inside the house as well. Yes, let us turn off the walls and take the bottom one here to put the alignment like this instead. And enough lighting effects. And now I have a floor that goes the other way. So, nice. Now we can see that I'm already getting a little bit of variation in my little building. And all that variation comes from just one single fill. All of those floors are using the exact same fill, just used in a couple of different ways. So, let's have another look at things we can do with this. Maybe I want to make it a little bit lighter or a little bit darker. Well, I'm just going to, I can just draw on the floor sheets, or I want to make a floor overlay. It will work either way, but I'm just making an overlay. If I go in here, and in most map styles, you'll find that there is something called solid bitmaps. These are used to darken things, or that's one of the way you can use them. These are partial transparent bitmaps. Let me pick the solid 40, for example. This should not be scaled. This is because this is really just a 1x1 pixel bitmap in solid color, so it doesn't need to be scaled. It doesn't have a pattern. Just leave it as it is. Okay. And I can just draw this on top of one of my floors. And now that floor is a tad darker. Another option is we have a similar set of white fills. But these white fills are not in this current style, unfortunately. You can see here I just have the normal solid. Many newer styles will have the solid white as well. So how can I get the solid whites into this map? Well, then I can start by importing fills. If I go to the Tools menu, I can import more bitmap fill styles. So let's just do that. I'm gonna browse, and I'm gonna go into my Program Data Pro Fantasy CC3 Plus folder. It starts here by default, but if not, this is the folder you normally want to go into, unless you have installed it in a non-default location. And inside here, there's a folder called Bitmaps and a folder called Transparencies. And here we have a lot of solid whites. So I'm just gonna pick one of them. I'm gonna pick the entire folder. And if you are importing files that comes with Campaign Cartographer, like these files, it's very important that you do not check this checkbox. This is if you are importing your own fields that you found on the internet or something like that. But when I'm importing existing fields from the Campaign Cartographer directory that came with the program, do not check that box. That's quite important. If you do, it will actually create several files and rename a couple of your files, and it may cause problem for other maps if you do it. So don't do that. So okay, 9 new fields, and I now have a solid whites. Let's pick the 40 one. The 40 just indicates how transparent it is, and I can just make this one a little bit lighter. There we go. Again, I'm just using existing overlays to make them darker or lighter, but I'm using the same fill. So I see Kevin also says it's easy to import fills, but you want to import just a single one. Well, if it is a ready-made fill, you can just go to the fill style dialog. You can just hit new, my new fill, and just go to find, and I want to import, yeah, let's see, tiles, crayons is probably fine. I want to import this light blue crayon image. Okay, and yeah, scale it 5, and there we go. I have imported just a single fill into the drawing. You have to give it a name and things like that, but it's quite easy to just make a new fill that way from the existing files. You only really need import bitmap fill styles if you are getting files from the internet that has not been processed for use with Campaign Cartographer before. Then you want to go through that process because it will create the different resolutions and things for you. But as long as you want to pick existing fills, you can just do that. And getting to the point of importing existing fills, sometimes you just want to import a set of fills that comes from a different map style. So let me show you something. I'm gonna make a new map style. Also, not a new map style, I'm gonna make a new map in a new style. Let's just do floor plans, and let's take SS3 modern. I want the fills from this map style, for example. So I'm just gonna make myself a new very temporary map. So let's just call this for temp. I already have one, but I'm sure it's not important. So now I have this map with these files from completely different style. So how can I get these into this one? Well, just go draw, insert file. I'm gonna find this new temp file I made. I hit open, and I immediately hit escape. When you do this, you're allowed to place the map inside of the map, but I didn't want to place the map. I only wanted the fill styles. And by hitting escape, you can now see that I have symbols at 3 fills. So now, if I want to draw something, my house is too small to put more things into it, but now I have the simple set refills from that other map styles ready to use, defined with scaling and everything in place from the get-go. So that's also another way of importing existing fills. And of course, since we are on the subject of importing fills like this, I think I should also bring up the last option, namely getting fills from the internet. That means that we have a little bit of cat who wants to pass by. Oui. So often you want to complement your existing fills with fills found on the internet. So let's just do that since we are on fills. I have a cat that decided to obstruct the chat. So let's just do something simple. Let me search for free textures, seamless PNG, something like that. When you want textures, you want something using seamless tiles, because these are going to repeat multiple times. So let's just see what we find here. You can find a lot of things on the internet, but just for reference, I just googled before I got here, and I just found this site because this site had a nice policy. If I go to remember, when you're getting files from the internet, always check the usage policy, and this site seems to have a very open free policy. You can use it even without accrediting the author and everything. Right now you're gonna see who the author is if I'm downloading anything from here, but remember, if you are getting files from the internet, especially if you're going to distribute your works afterwards, it's important that you're actually getting files you are allowed to use and distribute. So let me just pick something. This looks like a texture. Just downloads. That's a JPEG. You can always convert. I'll just take this one because I know it's a PNG. You can always convert a JPEG to PNG, but going through all of that is more than I want to take the time for in this tutorial. So I'm just gonna grab an existing PNG. This is a nice one. So I'm just gonna download this one. And yeah, you can see I already had it downloaded, the file here. So yeah, as Sue says, look for free for commercial use, but if you're not selling anything, it doesn't have to be for commercial use either, as long as it's free for personal use. But it's always worth reading the license text, because if you, for example, want to show off your map on the forum, some licenses are so restrictive that you cannot even do that, while others are quite fine with it. But now I have this image file that I want to use. And what you need to do when you import image files from the internet or from anywhere else, if you made them just yourself, if you're good at this like Sue, you can just draw them yourself in your image editor, and I don't know what kind of magic she does, but obviously she can make fills out of thin air. I can't. But no matter if you make them yourself or if you download them from the internet to have other people make them for you or whatever, what you want to do is you want to take the file and you want to put it inside your Campaign Cartographer data directory. Don't leave it in your download directory, because all those references in the fill style dialog in Campaign Cartographer, they reference the original image file. So it's very important that the image file is in a stable location where it will stay for the rest of its life. Otherwise your maps will stop working, or they will show red access if the image file is ever moved. So make sure it has the final name you want to give it and the final location, and then process it for inclusion in your map. So let me just find my data directory. And the easiest way to find it is from within Camping Cartographer. Just type the command opendoc on the command line, hit a space, add the @ sign, and hit enter. That opens a folder right to your Camping Cartographer data directory, no matter where it might be. Then, since this is a fill, I go into bitmap and tiles, and you should have your own folder here. I made this earlier today called user, and yeah, you often want a little bit more organized file structure inside there, so just let me just call this live stream textures, and I'm gonna pick up file, copy it, paste it in here. So this is the unprocessed file. But now I can go into Camping Cartographer, Tools, Import Bitmap File Styles. I find this folder, Files, and User, and Livestream Textures. Take the folder, and now this has not been processed before. So now I want to create other resolutions. If you want, Camping Cartographer can copy them to another folder, but in my case, I have them where I want them to be. I'm not sure of the scale of this file, but I'm just going to assume this is a very high quality file. This just reference if it's high enough quality. Camping Cartographer has 4 quality steps for files. And if the source file is not high enough to quality for very high quality, you can just set it this is a high quality file instead. Very high quality files are something you usually don't need anyway, because they're only really needed when you're zooming very deeply into the image. I put it to scale. Since I don't know the scale of this, I'm just guessing a little bit on the scale right now. But this, I don't know. As a suffix, we can call it ls for live stream. And now it will process all those files. One file. If we look at the folder now, we can see that the original file is gone, and it has been replaced by 4 files with this suffix VH, very high, high, low, and very low quality. This is the original file, it's just renamed to VH. So now, in my dialog here, what was the name of this thing? Leaves, okay. I should now be able to find this. Leaves, there we have it. This one. And you can now use it to draw a floor. Okay, I got a little bit off. Let me see. Why did it not find it, that one? Okay, I'm a little bit flummoxed right now. I shouldn't be anything wrong with that one. To suggest it might be too long. Yeah, maybe it's maybe the file name is a bit too long. I think this is actually, if that's the case, it's a Windows problem, because Windows have a maximum file name length. When I tried before, I didn't actually have this last folder. So let's just delete these files. I'm just gonna remove everything here and just call it, yeah, we call it L. And just to be on the safe side, I'm just gonna rename this folder to just live. Let's try this one. This should normally work, but as Sue said, I might have gone over the Windows 255 character file name limit. That could be a problem. So let me just delete this one. Okay. And import bitmap file styles. It remembers, yeah, now I just rename the folder to live, so just remember that one. And okay. And one else imported. And let's see what we got. Now we have L. Let's see if this one works. Okay. Now I am extremely confused right here. One of the reasons I was confused was also, you can see that it did show in the dialog before I changed anything. Let me just a bitmap cache, and just for changing the bitmap quality, I'm just gonna see, yeah, there you can see it. This file works. This file works. This file works. This does not work. Okay, that's interesting. It seems basically there's a problem with that file for some reason. Let me just try to just save it again. And then I need to add G and what I'm thinking here is that it might be a little an issue of some kind with the original file, because the conversion process that converts the PNGs is an external process to Campaign Cartographer. It's actually ImageMagick that does the job of converting the files. But the original file you started is never actually converted. So I have a slight thought that it might be something wrong, or something with the format that Campaign Cartographer did not appreciate. Just see if this fixes it. Yeah, that fixes it. So let's just double check. Yeah, it's high automatic bitmap. So okay, so this was a little bit of extra troubleshooting. It seems that the file I had picked there was something with the PNG format that obviously Campaign Cartographer couldn't parse. I have no idea what that exactly was, but you can see when I open it in an editor and resaved it, it actually worked fine. And I did say earlier that I didn't want to show you, to waste time on showing you how to convert a JPEG to a PNG, but basically what I just did now, open it in an image editor and then save it as a PNG, exporting it, is the process. So I guess we basically covered that as well. But now you can see the file works fine. I don't know why, but again, something with the original file that Campaign Cartographer didn't actually like. So it wasn't the file name parts or anything like that. But this is the world of computer troubleshooting. Sometimes things happen and you have to find out why and how. Okay, but let's not use more time on that right now. Hopefully you learned something from that. But I'm going to move into the last part of use of changing your fills, and that is to use effects to do interesting changes to your fills. So I'm going to now switch maps. I'm gonna go to the tutorial map from the user manual. This should be a familiar map to a lot of people, I guess. It's the tutorial we make through in the user manual, and it's a basic mic straight. So now I'm thinking, well, wouldn't it be nice if that landmass here was snow covered? I don't really want. I hate snow. I don't know what I'm saying I want, but okay, for my map, I'm going to kind of want snow. Just for my map, not outside. So, how can I make this terrain a little bit snowy? For example, unless there's been an update I haven't noticed, there is no snowy farmlands. But there are no snowy farmlands. How can I make my farmland snowy? Well, we can do that with effects, or at least I can make them whiter with effects. If it looks like snow or not, well, you can be the judges of that. I'm not going to say this absolutely is the perfect representation, but I think it can look quite good. So let's start by figuring out what sheet are those fields on. Well, we do a list, select the field, do it, and we can see it's on the land features sheet. Okay, great. Let's see what we can do. And there are actually several ways of doing this. Or at least by using colors. I'm gonna start with the one I find the most intuitive and easiest to use. But we're going to look at a couple of ways to look at colors. So this was on land features. So I'm gonna add an effect called the RGB matrix process. This is a very nice effect because basically what it does is that it allows you to take color components and redefine color components. You all know that on computers we use 3 color components, red, green and blue. And what RGB matrix processes does is that it allows you to redefine the color components in reference to other color components. So I can do things like swapping channels. Let me just set this to the default settings. And now, for example, if I want to make blue red and red blue, well, then I say that blue is 1 times the original red component and 0 times the original blue component, while red is 0 times the original red component and 1 times the original blue component. Look what happens. Now I'm swapping red and blue. So this allows us to do very simple mathematical operations to our colors. So it's a very easy and nice way to change the colors around and quite intuitive to figure out what you have to do. You just have to think in the manner of colors. Okay, I want less red, I want the red to be blue, things like that, and you basically are there. So if I want to make this field a little bit more whitish, a little bit more like snow, well, then it needs to be more white, right? And we can also all agree that, like it's now, it's quite green. So it seems like if I can kind of turn the green into white, well, then maybe that's what I need to do. So let me just ditch the original red and blue components, and let me just say, let's first try this. I said that red is equal to the green, green is equal to the green, and blue is equal to the green. And there we go already. It's grayish. I want to make it maybe a little bit more whitish. So what if we multiplied it a little bit? 1.2 of the original values. And I will say, there we are. You can see now, my new red component is 1.2 times whatever the green component was before, and I'm ignoring both red and blue. I'm doing this for both red, green, and blue are all set now just in terms of green before. So that's kind of it. Let me just hit OK. And OK. Sue says she prefers colorize. Colorize can be nice, but you struggle getting it white like this using colorize. I'm gonna show colorize in a moment, but you don't have the same range with colorize. Now, we did have a few more polygons on the same sheet. We can see that this one is turned. Yeah, this is nice and snowy, isn't it? And this one is also nice and snowy. Okay, great. Now I only need the landmass. Well, let me process the landmass as well then. Let me do the same thing. RGB matrix process. And I use the default values. I should use 1.2. The same values I used. And I'm gonna put this one on the top because there's some glow effects. Now, so I want to actually, I think I want to have it on the bottom actually, so I changed the colors of the glows. And okay, I got it a little bit purplish. Maybe I should remove a little bit of the red component. You can see it's a bit too purplish right now. So let me go in, RGB matrix, and I'm just gonna, yeah, and that's why I forgot to set these to 0, like this. There we go, and there we got it. Now, this doesn't work with symbols. I'm not going into redrawn and delay redrawn symbols right now. It's going to take too much time. If you know what I'm talking about, you know you can tweak them a little bit, turning off that setting, but that has other problems. But it's actually quite snowy landscape, and at least for the trees, we do have some nice snowy trees here now. So even if I'm not gonna go in and replace all the woods right now, but you can see that if I want my snowy trees, I have some nice snowy trees to put there. And with a little bit of more work replacing these trees, we have a perfectly fine map. So that's the RGB matrix process. It's the most flexible of them, and personally I find it the most easy to use, but Sue just said she preferred other effects, so I'm going to show, of course, other effects as well. I'm well aware that not everybody likes the RGB matrix process. Personally, as I said, I find it very intuitive and easy to use. But let's just, before we go, I'm just actually going to just demonstrating a few more color changes. Now, I showed you how to make this white, but let's just change the colors a little bit, and I'm gonna load values I already have prepared. Hello value here, and okay, this one, let's just apply, and you can see my fields are now a nice autumn yellow. If I turn on off the RGB on the landmass, it looks a little bit more autumnish. Maybe I should change the landmass as well, but this is a way to make autumn fields. Or if you want to have them even more brownish, let me remove a little bit more color from it. And you can see they get a little bit more brownish. And now, if I pick the right piece there, I find some We have a little bit of dry trees, giant dead trees, yeah. Put a little bit of dead trees in here, and it kind of looks like dried up land. So again, this is a way of using color changes to actually make the fill that used to be just bright, perfect green, nice green fields, and I now made yellow autumn fields, brown dried up fields, white winter fields, all just applying an effect to existing fills. But let's just then go back to the original map, save it, and let me showcase a couple of the other effects as well, just to show what we have to play with. One of the effects, the one that Sue mentioned, colorize. It allows us to change the colors in a more interactive way. Let's add colorize here. And you can see now, if I click here, I can make this white, and this is what I said to Sue as well. If I try to make this white with colorize, I get this grayish thing. You don't get quite as white as you can do with RGB matrix process. That's why I like that one. But colorize is otherwise great because it's very easy. You can just pick a color, or you can, if you like to pull sliders, you can just pull sliders and get the values you want. And yeah, just play a little. Quite odd or bright green, reddish. Let's see if we can make them a little bit more orangey. Yeah, ends up being quite brownish. The color we define here is of course kind of mixed in with the existing color there, which makes them not exactly the color you pick. You need to experiment a little bit, but you can see I can quickly here make the fields all kinds of weird colors. And yeah, just quite nice. So I get a question from Andre Yates what the holes are in the texture. Unfortunately, those are transparency acne. It happens when you're using effects like edge fade inner, and the texture have the same color on the texture itself as on the underlying, what's right below it, the green land below it. And when I change the colors like this, there is a good chance that actually some of the pixels are ending up getting the same color. You can see if I remove edge fade inner on this one and just add colorize now, colorize, it should not happen at all. So it's basically an effect of the effects processing system that causes this. You can use another polygon below in another color to avoid it. You'll find several solutions on the forum for doing that. But you can see here, if I turn off the effects or the edge fade, then there's no problem at all with the color changes. Nice blue fields. No idea what they might be cultivating there, but okay, blue fields. We have, of course, other Sue says new map style should be less affected thanks to a tool I wrote. The problem with that is that everything works fine out of the box, but if you do color changes like I'm doing here, you are kind of overriding what my tool has done to the files, so you might still encounter it if you do color changes like this, combined with effects like edge fade, of course. So let me add another effect. Let's see what more we can do. Instead of colorize, you can use the older adjust hue and saturation. This kind of does a little thing of the same thing that color that you can do with Colorize, but let me show you some nice things with that one. I think I'm just going to start a new map again, an overland map, and we're sticking to Schley for this one, I think. Let's just make it 50 by 50, and I'm just gonna make this normal landmass. This. Maps. And so I'm going to throw in a few sheets here. I'm gonna add one. Not on total, I don't show. Add layer 2. Add 3. Add layer 4. And add layer 5. Now, if I go in here and I'm gonna add hue saturation, and I'm actually going to do hue of 5, I think. Copy this one. And 15. Notice I'm slightly changing the hue. Oops. All the way. 15, 20. And the last one, 25. Notice what I did here now. I have 5 layers with 5 color changes on them, very weak color changes. And this is, yeah, as somebody already said in the chat, this is mainly done to show things like elevation. So obviously you guys know exactly what I'm going to show. Maybe not everybody does. I can actually now use the same fill as the background, the land fill. And I started layer 1. And I'm just gonna draw myself a circle. And I'm gonna go to layer 2. And is it stupid of me to have sheets and then name them layer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Well, maybe a stupid name, but. And I deliberately kept this subtle, so there won't be too much. And now you can see you have this subtle change. Zoom in here. I made it steeper on this side than the other side, but now you kind of have this hill shape where the color gradually changes as you make it up the hill. So this is a way of using adjust saturation, and I only had one fill, but by slightly changing the properties for each sheet, it means that I end up with 5 different sheets with a little bit of a difference on each. And the sorry, the idea is it's subtle enough that you shouldn't really kind of notice the changes, but it's hard enough of it that when you look at from top to bottom, you can clearly see the changes. So let's go on. I don't have much more to show you, but I have one thing I would like to show you, and that's what's called blend modes. Blend modes are another way of taking some kind of fill and just mixing it with what is already in the drawing. So let me just forget these layers and let's go back to a normal drawing for a moment. I'm gonna actually add myself a lake sheet. I want a lake sheet. And it can be, doesn't get too much for this. So I'm actually going to draw using the sea, and I'm gonna make myself a little bit of a lake here. And just to make it interesting, I'm gonna have a hills, hills hill. I want the hills background and roughly half the map. Yeah. Here we have very simple setup. I have a lake partially over over the flatland and partly over a hills background, indicating maybe a little bit more of a highland. But now, how can I make this lake mix a little bit more with what's below it and thereby changing the fill of the lake? Well, we have these effects called blend modes. And blend modes are common effects that you will also find in normal image editors. So you can you might be very familiar with that effect if you use image editors a lot. But let me just add the effect here. Oh, I'm blind. Blend mode. There we go. But the idea of blend modes is basically that you say that whatever I have on this sheet, how is that going to be combined with the sheet below it? The normal blend mode is just pouring it on top of it. That's what normally happens. But we can mix. Let me do a blend mode, and instead of normal, let me try to just lighten it a bit. You see that? I now made it, it's not actually transparent. You might think it is kind of transparent, but that's not what it is. It actually mixes the colors of my lake sheet with what's below it. So we can see that we get different effects. Instead of lightening, I can darken things. Now my sea is suddenly kind of greenish. And the advantage to doing things like blend modes, it's not very visible in this map, but if I want to make some kind of partially transparent stream where I want to see through in a riverbed and I want to see the rocks and things below, I often don't just want to make a simple transparency because that doesn't give the same effect. But by blending the bitmap with what's below, you can see that how it kind of affects what's below, gives color to it and gives a different effect, and that makes the entire fill looks different. I can use a lot of weird things here. You can see get the negation and get the opposite. I don't really know what I'm going to do with that one, but you can see you can mix it in different ways. You can also set the transparency here. If I only have 50% opacity, it won't be such a stark effect. And we can see one place where this blend mode is very visible and very nice. I'm going to go back to my sample map, and I'm going to define a new fill in this one. And Sue is going to see what I'm doing in about 5 seconds. So I'm going to make a new fill, and I'm going to call it parchment. And I'm going to find one of my parchment bits. Again, in the CC3 Plus data folder, bitmaps, backgrounds, parchments. What we have here, we can use this one, and You can see I now have a nice parchment fill. I don't think it needs to be scaled. And if I now make myself a parchment sheet at the end here, maybe below the map border, and I just draw one big overlay. Now, this doesn't look very good. I mean, I just did the entire map. But if I now go in and add the blend mode and do a multiply, then it means that I'm basically combining that parchment with the map below. You now see how it has this nice little parchmenty effect all over it. Zoom in. You can see a nice looking parchment effect. It kind of looks like the map is made on some kind of textured paper like parchment. So that's also a way to use the blend mode to be able to utilize the effect. Or sorry, the fill I meant. I can just merge the fill into what's there, and we get a nice use out of fills like parchment and things like that. So that's been a lot of different things today, I think. So I just think we're going to call it a quits here. Are there any questions for me before I end this? So Andre says it will be useful for many of your maps, yeah? Good to hear. I hope it will be useful for a lot of people. There's a lot of nice things you can do with these different effects to manipulate your fills, and a lot of different things you can do with your fills. One thing I didn't show you today is, of course, that you can always edit your fills in an image editor and do things with them and import them into your map. If you do that, just remember two things. A, do not overwrite original fills. If you change the fill files, there is no button to just revert to default. Have you changed the files, then you have changed the files. Nothing can be done with that without reinstalling. And if you make your own fills from official Pro Fantasy fills, you are not allowed to redistribute those, because if you change something with a commercial license or something, then you aren't allowed to redistribute those changes either, and other people wouldn't be able to use your FCV if you used changed fills in it. So that's why I always recommend primarily doing it the way I have been doing. The only thing I did today that wasn't compatible with sharing your map with others and that actually changed things was that I imported one fill from the internet. That fill from the internet, of course, won't be able for anyone else to see if you send them the FCV, but everything else we have done today by changing the alignment and changing the scale, all of that just in-map stuff, and it will work for everyone who has the same add-ons installed as you used for the map. So okay, that seems like we are done then. So I'm just gonna say thank you all for watching and have a nice evening.